Welcome to the Fane of Fantasy. If you follow me on Twitter or Facebook, and in particular if you are on my email list, you will know that I have had some challenges in an editor changing in the middle of editing Desolation. So my editor had to close shop due to personal reasons all of a sudden. So it was not planned for, and it was very inconvenient. But it also means that I've been through this process a couple times now. And on top of that, I have worked in corporate for so long that I have gained a lot of experience in selecting people to work with. So today I will give you 5 simple steps on how to find an editor. There is one thing I wanted to cover before we dive in. At the point of recording this video, we have just passed 100 subscribers. And as promised in the previous video, I've added a link to it somewhere here on the screen. But in that video, I agreed to draw out a random subscriber to win a signed paperback copy of Desolation. So I will do that, and much more about that in the video next week. What I wanted to say here instead was how much I appreciate each and every single one of you. You know, without you here, there would be no need for me to create these videos in the first place. The purpose would be gone. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for watching the videos I create. And thank you for your likes. And above all, thank you for commenting on the videos. As I've said since day one, creating a community of like-minded individuals is really what drives me. And when I get your comments, then we have interaction. And well, without interaction, there is no community, really. So then it would just be me talking to a camera, and that's really not my intention. So thank you. I do appreciate you taking your time to watch the content that I create. I really mean that. Okay, so let's get into today's topic. Finding an editor is part of writing. It's part of being an author, and since you follow this channel, I hope you will find all aspects of my author journey interesting. So even if you are not writing yourself, you can still find some value, I hope, in this kind of look behind the scenes on how I go about selecting my editor. And also, there is no need to take any notes of the 5 steps process that I'm going to share with you here today. I've described everything in a free downloadable PDF. It's 6 pages that very easily and structured walks you through the entire thing. But more on that at the end of this video. Now, as I mentioned, I've been through this process of finding an editor a few times myself. And during my many years in corporate, I have established an extensive experience in selecting sub-suppliers. Now, as an author, you are entering a business relationship with your editor. That means that at the stage of selecting your editor, you really need to think of it as hiring a contractor. And in doing so, there are certain things we can be aware of, and hopefully find somebody who is reliable, talented, and affordable. That said, the hard truth is that there are no guarantees. But the good news is that I can hopefully tip the odds a bit in your favor by a few simple steps. Before we get into step 1, you might as well start out by deciding your budget right here up front. Price range on editorial services varies greatly, and it's not only dependent on whether or not you need development editing, copy editing, or just proofreading. Some editors charge very high hourly rates, while others might be perceived as to have a more fair per word charge. It's up to you really, but try to make up your mind on what you're willing to pay before going any further. Because there is no need to attract or engage in dialogue with editors that are clearly outside your budget range. If you are operating on a budget, I would say that in most cases, copy editing and proofreading should be your own minimum requirements on how far to go with editing. So the first step is to locate the editor. Where do you find them? Well, personally, I prefer to work off references. And the first place I would go and search would be on the social media platforms where I'm already present and where I already have an established network. So I would go and ask some fellow authors for references to editors they have been happy working with. But what if you have no existing network of authors, you might ask? Well, try to join a Facebook group within your own genre. It's very useful and the results are almost guaranteed. If you never tried it before, you will be surprised by how many authors are very willing to help you out. You might want to highlight your price range when you first create your posts. If this is an important element for your later decision making, then it's good to get that out there right away. You can also decide to leave this bit out and address it during the shortlisting, which is another step we'll come back to just in a moment. However, no matter what, do make sure to mention your genre. You can of course also simply perform an internet search and try to locate editor websites that way, or you can go via freelance sites like Reedsy or Upwork or something like that. If you do decide to use some of those freelance sites that I just mentioned here, I have included a template inside the downloadable PDF, which you can use as it is, or you can use it as inspiration for what you can actually post on these sites to attract editors. Step 2 is about shortlisting. So based on step 1, you should now have a list of potential editors with whom you are considering working with. However, at this stage, you have not actually talked to any of them yet. It's simply all based on hearsay or internet searches. So that's where we're looking to change here in step number 2. So build yourself a shortlist of 5 editors who both fit your price range and also are interested in your genre. Step number 3. It's now time to break the ice and open a line of communication with your 5 candidates. Apart from verifying the price range, you should also ask about their availability. I think this is often an overlooked topic that can completely spoil the working relationship before it has even begun. You know, when you learn that soon actually meant 3 months and you believe that soon meant 3 weeks, you have an issue on your hands from which, well, recovery may be close to impossible. So settle your expectations up front and you'll both be happy you did. Even if you cannot accommodate each other's wishes, you'll be glad you realized now and you can part ways with no hard feelings between yourselves. The other thing you will want to keep attention to is the editor's communication skills. This is the key to a good working relationship. You should never feel afraid to say if something is not working for you, but do make sure that you are always constructive when you do so. And at the same time, I would say try to remember that an editor is a professional in his or her trade. So also try to listen to the advice you receive and treat the person as a valuable team member. If all goes well, the editor will be a person that you will cooperate with for a long time, perhaps over the course of several books or many years. Some have the same editor for decades. So the relationship you are building here is extremely important. And to complete this step number 3, you will want to ask each editor for testimonials. Now they might have those available on their website already, but I still recommend that you ask for the contact information to at least 3 different authors they have worked with. Now, it does not matter if these 3 authors are some of the same individuals they have listed on the testimonial page of their website, but what is important is that you want to talk to these authors. So conduct a short email exchange with each of them and ask how this person liked to work with the editor in question. That kind of exchange is completely invaluable, and you will learn so much from it. Let's move on to step number 4 then. So this one is about getting a sample edit completed. So first of all, you have your list of 5 editors who operate within your budget. They are available to work on your book. And please note that 1 or 2 of them might have dropped off the list during step number 3. So if that happens, then repeat step 2 and 3 again until you do have a list of 5 candidates once you begin this step number 4. Now is the time to reduce the field from 5 to 2. To make your decision, you will use all the material you have gathered so far, but place a heavy focus on the testimonials and on your own common sense. Now, I cannot stress this last point enough. The one about the common sense. Always listen to your gut feeling. If something does not feel quite right, go back to square one and start over. If it feels just right, it's very likely because it is. So from each of your 2 remaining contestants, you need a sample edit completed. So some editors will ask you for a small sum to do a sample edit, and that's just fine. I would never argue against it. When you select what to submit to the editor for a sample edit, I suggest that you pick 10 pages from the middle of your novel. Why? Well, the reason is that most authors know how important the beginning of a novel is, and most authors have labored hard and long on making it just right. And you would rather want to see what the editor can say and will point out on the dragging middle part of the novel. That only leaves us with the final step, number 5, and this is the easiest step for some and the most difficult for others. This step is simply about making your decision. That's it. Inside the PDF I mentioned before, I have added 3 small tips for you so that it can help you a bit in terms of making sure you do not end up hiring a bad editor. If you do download the mentioned freebie, I would love it if you would drop a comment below and let me know if it's useful for you. Or even if you don't download the freebie, I would still love to have your thoughts on what I've covered in this video and if it was helpful for you. I'm trying to build a community, remember, so comments is good. I've added the link to the mentioned free PDF somewhere here on the screen now, and you can also find it in the description field below. I just passed 110,000 words on Degradation, which is the second book in the Keystone Bone trilogy. And in the coming weeks, I will record the next video in the series that we entitled The Writer's Room, and that was where I was talking about goals for the coming 6 months. So I will cover some more there. And make sure to subscribe to get your dose of fantasy every single Monday. And another place where I'm also trying to build a community is over on Patreon. There are rewards there, but that's not really the most important thing. It's about the interaction that we can create over there. So not only between you and me, but also between you as like-minded individuals who like fantasy. There is a link right here on the screen and also in the description field below if this is something that could appeal to you. See you next Monday.